This morning's episode covers an ongoing case involving two young, unidentified juvenile females whose lives ended in circumstances that are deeply troubling and heartbreaking because of their ages and out of respect for them, for their families, and for you, the audience. I want to be very clear at the onset. We're not going to use graphic descriptions. We're not going to sensationalize, and we're not going to speculate recklessly. This conversation will be carefully measured and focused on facts that are appropriate to share on the community impact and on broader questions this situation raises. If you're new here, my name is Bullhorn Betty, and this is the Coffee Club, where we talk about real cases, real people, and the systems that are supposed to protect them. When children are involved, there is a special responsibility that comes with telling their stories. They cannot speak for themselves. They cannot correct the record. So our goal this morning is to center dignity, empathy, and accountability. We're going to walk through what is publicly known about this case in Cleveland, Ohio. We will discuss the timeline as it's understood so far, what authorities have shared, what questions remain unanswered, and how the community can play a constructive role. I'm going to avoid unnecessary details about the condition of these adolescents, and I will not be playing disturbing audio or showing disturbing imagery. If you at this point feel uncomfortable, please take care of yourself first. This case is a little shocking, so step away and come back later or sit this one out. Your well-being comes before any episode of the show. I also want to remind everyone that behind every headline, behind every press conference, are real human beings. Two children whose names we don't even know yet. Loved ones who may be searching, worrying, or grieving for these juveniles. Investigators and first responders who will carry these images and this experience with them. So as we talk this morning, let's keep that in front of us. This is not content. This is not entertainment in the cheap sense. This is about bearing witness, asking hard questions, and encouraging anyone with information to do the right thing and come forward. With that in mind, let's start laying out the basic facts as they've been shared with the public, and then we'll take a deeper look at what that might mean. So please stay tuned to the Bullhorn Betty Show for the next 2 hours as we break this difficult case down and what we know so far. Thank you, and God bless. All right, guys, it's nice to see you this afternoon. So we have been reported, and thank you guys, by the way. I was getting ready to prepare thumbnails, and several of you guys reached out to me while I was preparing thumbnails. So you guys are staying on top of it, which tells me a few things. This is kind of striking a chord with you. This entire case is striking a chord with you guys. So I'm, it is a sad. For me, this is a sad case. For me, that this is something that should never happen, and I'm more. I don't know how to express this in words, but I'm not shocked that we have somebody that hurts children. Okay, I mean, we live in a very disgusting world. Okay, we all know that. But we put things in place and procedures in place throughout this country, so we can be, we know about this preventatively, know about this before it gets to this point. And I think that's the most. I was like, how are we here? These are grade school kids, like 8 and 14. How are we here? How are we here? How did nobody know that these children are missing? That's going to be like, it is as crazy as it sounds. It's like, we almost expect people to be animals and uncivilized, right? We almost expect it this day and age. Many of us have lost our own little, belief in humanity, or, whatever the case may be. But for us, we kind of expect animals to act like animals. And so we make sure that we have all of these fail safes in place. So when things get to animalistic territory, we have things to block the animals from getting out, We have things in place, like if a child goes missing and they're missing from school for more than 24 or 2 days, they're reported. There are truancy rules. There's all these things that are put into place to help monitor these children. And how do we have two breaking major news siblings? They were half siblings. I'm going to refer to them as siblings. The reason why I'm going to refer to them as siblings instead of half siblings is because I have a half sibling myself, and I don't ever remember saying, oh, she's my half sister. She's my sister. So these are our siblings. We knew that these would most likely be siblings. And they are. Snitches are out. Yippee. Stitches are out. Snitches are out. Yippee. I've been in true crime way too long. Oh, I thought she was saying something funny like snitches get stitched. I don't know what the hell I was thinking. Don't mind me. I'm okay. Oh, good gracious. Okay, when my kids were little, their school would call. Yeah, I know. I remember trying to run home and get the phone before my parents got the calls, and our school started getting, hip on how we were being clever with the phone system. So they started calling earlier in the day, and that's how we got busted for skipping class. So even me, I found ways to skip school. Like I'd go and they changed the rules. They've obviously changed the rules since then. Every time they catch us doing something, they make a new rule. But back in my day, all we had to do was go sit in for the first class. As long as we were there for the first class, they would think we were there all day long. I just want to make sure you understand that. Once we checked into to the first class, we were checked in. I'm just saying, they don't do that anymore. So you young kids, if you come across this video, don't be a bullhorn Betty. Don't be a baby Betty. Don't be a baby bullhorn. Hey, Dustin, it's nice to see you. Lisa, Mama, Nicole, come on in, guys. All right, on a real note, we have a serious situation here. As we learned, there was a graphic scene out in a Cleveland neighborhood park. And this appears to be like a park that's kind of adjoined or on the side of some all-male high school. They are two females. They were two juvenile females, and we have just learned the breaking news or major update in this is that they are half siblings. And we kind of expected that to be the case, but then it comes back to the fact. And the one thing I do want to say, we are learning a few things. We learned this morning that it's going to be next to impossible for this person not to have been in that community, either grew up in that community or went to that male school in that community. Where these girls were buried was right out in in an open field. There was nothing obscuring the houses in front of it from seeing somebody digging a hole over there by the tree line. So we've got a situation here where I don't know of anybody feeling comfortable enough to do something like that in the middle of an open field where there's 5 houses that can see you, unless you knew that all these people go to sleep at night and would not be observing you, or went to, if they were younger. We were looking at these people, and the people in those houses that are on the front side of that field, they appear to be elderly. Maybe they weren't worried about it because they knew that the people would never be able to see them all the way over there, right? I don't know what the case may be related to it, but it looks like they were able to pull right up into the school, and there's this where they drive down, and there's this wall there, so you can't even from that place, you have to pull the suitcase up onto the field from that driveway that goes down by the school. So we were looking at all of that today, trying to make heads or tails. But one thing that was at least apparent to me is it looks like this person was comfortable in that environment. I don't see this being a place that anybody that was just driving by says, "Oh, this is a great place to start digging a hole." Okay? So that's where we are with this. Now we're learning. We had kind of this feeling that they were going to most likely be siblings. They are siblings. The one thing that they now have in common is either a mother or a father, because they're half. That means they only have one parent in common, not both parents in common. So what do you bet that this is a mom in common, children, mom in common, children, that most likely hurt her own kids or allowed a man to do this? I can almost guarantee I'm already profiling in my own brain right now. Like, this is a lady that is probably got a lot of problems. That's probably a drunk or a substance abuse user. That's probably got some man with her, right? She's obviously doesn't have the same father for both of them, or vice versa. It could be, you might be saying, "Okay, Betty, you're being a little sexist there. Who's to say it can't be the man that's got the kids?" And you're right. You're right. It could be the man. It could be the half hubby. But the father and have half mommy. They could share the same father and not the same mom. So we do have ourselves a little pickle here, but the case is starting to develop a little bit. I feel like whoever did this is from that community. I could be way off base here. We'll find out if we're going to be getting some pay dirt on this pretty soon. But the children are related. They are related. So that, again, it just bothers me because now you have two siblings that disappeared from somewhere. And we've got nobody reporting them missing. We've got no school missing children. We've got no missing children reported. Like, I'm kind of a little angry here. I don't know how many of you guys are, but I'm kind of a little perturbed that this is the elements of this case. We have so many checks and balances, even for our students that are homeschooled. Parents just can't go and pull their children out of our public school system and take them off the rolls completely. Okay? There is still oversight from our schools, required oversight. Like if your child doesn't log into the computer to do their homework or something like that. And not only that, but it's my understanding that many of these communities that do this homeschooling still require a visible checkup with that student, or requires that student to participate in XYZ classes or field trips or things of that nature. So I'm a little concerned about this because of those situations. Now we truly have a situation where a parent went from having two kids, most likely the age of 8 and 14, or somewhere around there, give or take a year or two, around both of those ages, up or down, right? Now we have those, and they're missing. So somebody had two kids with them at the same time. And then boom, two kids were no longer with them. So people would have had to ask them, "Oh, where's your kids?" And they would have had to make up an excuse. So the excuse might be, "Oh, they went to their father's house to live. Oh, they went to their mother's house to live. Oh, they went to go visit some family." But the kids never returned. The kids never returned. You never saw that person, that mom or that father, with those children again. And they're in a Cleveland area, and they may even have been a neighborhood in that general vicinity. They may have been in that neighborhood, in that general vicinity, folks. So think about it. If you are in this area, what was the area? Let's put this up. 162nd. Let me change out my background. And then I'll remember it. Change out my background. There we go. Okay. Midland. So the cross street, I know that this is the AI generated stuff, but the East 162nd Street and Midland are crossroads. Okay, they're crossroads, and Midland kind of dead ends. It kind of scoops around, but if you go straight, there's a fence right in front of it before it turns, so you can't go straight. You have to make a right. Okay, so you're 167th. You're driving down Midland. You have to make a right, otherwise you go into a fence. If you make a left, you're actually driving on a patch of grass that goes over to the school where the kids were ultimately found. Now, you do see the track marks of a vehicle, but it doesn't look like these are track marks of just any vehicle. It looks like any vehicle went back there. It looks like this area has been used a lot to go back and forth. Why? I have no earthly idea, but you can clearly see the tracks on the ground of somebody going back there. But that might have been developed or done by all of the law enforcement that had to literally drive back there as well. They would have used that cut in on Midland to cross over. That might have been the case, but those look like tracks that have been used a lot that go back there for some reason. But Midland and 162nd Street, there's people along that live in houses along there with an unobstructed view of that tree line. Several houses with an unobstructed view to that tree line, where the suitcases were pulled out, the 2 suitcases that were pulled out of the ground. That tells me this person was comfortable there. So let me ask you guys this. I mean, are we agreeing? Let me just ask it like this. Are we agreeing that it sounds like somebody is comfortable there? I mean, let's see if we can pull that up again. We have a tree line. Let's see. 2 girls. Suitcase. Oh, hold on. Sorry, my stuff's not in here yet. Hold on. Hopefully you guys can hear it.
Fanny Todd.
The officers at that time identified that there was a body inside of that second suitcase as well.
Both victims, young African-American girls.
One individual is suspected to be anywhere between the ages of 8.5 to 13. The second is estimated to be of the age of 10.5 to 14.
Investigators canvassing the area for video and evidence while still trying to determine the...
It sounds to me like they have... So there's definitely a few age difference in there. I don't believe the younger one's 13 and the older one could be possibly 14. I think we're dealing with a situation where you have a sibling, you know, so now we're already getting an identity on the mom, but there's only 2 of them there, and they were of significant age, so it would kind of imply she may still be with the same person, or may have gotten, we're not getting too medically, I'm thinking too far outside the box. My God, sick world. It is a sick world. It is a sick world. But when you're looking at this, the fact that they're suitcases, the fact that they needed to be moved, and the fact that this is a shallow grave, that also helps me identify and make this, for me, appear to be potentially a male that could have taken, could have carried this out. Could women carry this out? I mean, you're talking about children, or adolescents. Yes. Could multiple people be involved? Yes. All of the above. But typically what you have, if the mom is involved, typically, you have a situation where mom may have hurt the child and the boyfriend/husband might help her clean it up. And then there's the vice versa, where they have a very violent, enraged significant other, and then that they hurt their children, and then they help them cover up the fact that their boyfriend or the step parent of the kids, hurt them, and then they cover it up. So those are pretty much, in my opinion, the situation we're looking at in this case. This is kind of what we thought might transpire in this case, where we're having, two children that wind up deceased together and are ultimately found. There are words that they used in the press conference, such as they have been there for some time. Now, I never like to hear those words. They've been there some time, okay? Because sometime, and I can tell you we've covered a lot of investigations on the show where they've been there together some time, right? And that some time words are very, very subjective. And that some time that they've been there, in all of these cases, I can promise you have been different time frames. So I don't know what this particular chief, if this is a chief, I can't remember if it's a chief or the county, if that was a county sheriff or not, if she was a sheriff or the chief. But either way, whatever she is, she's the head of it. She said those words in, I don't like them, because is it a month? That's some time. Is it 5 months? That's some time. 6 months? A year? More than a year? That is some time. You see how subjective it is? It's very hard to gauge what some time means to this chief/sheriff. So we'll have to keep our eyes and ears open. What the coroner was willing to release today, which is not much, is that they are half siblings. So if you were just coming into the show just now, which I see we've increased our volume. By the way, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button for me. I appreciate that. This appears to be siblings. So far, on our initial assessment overall for this case, we started analyzing it fairly quickly and analyzed it correctly. I didn't see where two people could disappear around the same time without anybody noticing it, without them being siblings of some sort. So that was kind of one of the reasons why I thought that so early on, probably the same why many of you thought that so early on. FBI, ICE, and unmarked cops at our pharmacy in our community. We don't know why. Once I hear anything, I'll let you know. Wow. Well, offer to buy them some water. Tell them thank you for their service. Actually, we'll give them a big round of applause. Turn your volume on. Put your speaker on. And we'll give them a big round of applause. There we go. We love law enforcement. Law enforcement is who puts the bad guys away. And I just want to remind everybody, law enforcement does not create laws, okay? Law enforcement does not create laws. Don't be mad at law enforcement. You never, ever, ever be mad at law enforcement unless their conduct, their personal conduct, requires you to be mad, all right? Because I tell you what, there are some dirties out there, but there are some great, great, great officers. And we back the blue over here on this channel very much. We do. But always remember, law enforcement does not create laws. Their only job is to enforce the laws that were created by our Congress. So if you're pissed off at laws, don't be taking it out on our law enforcement. They're only doing their job. You want to bite somebody's head off? You want to really make somebody hear you? You call your politician, because they're the ones forcing those officers to enforce those laws. I just want to remind everybody, don't be mean to your law enforcement unless they personally deserve it. And that means their conduct was crappy. We do have some officers. I do not like corruption. I do not like crappy officers. I will call it out in a quickness. I call it out. And so much that people, when I go after somebody, people actually think that I don't like law enforcement. I absolutely love law enforcement. I make sure that my sheriff here in Manatee County is funded like he's got to come find me one day. You I tell people that all the time. Everybody laughs at me. I fund my law enforcement like I'm going to be the next victim of a homicide or missing person, okay? I want to make sure they got everything they need to come find Betty. I'm just saying, I couldn't live without myself. I don't know if you could. Baddock. Yeah, there we go. Reba's got it. Eric Baddock. Yeah, because he's bad at it. Bad at it, Craddock. Oh! Boom! Bad at it, Craddock. That needs to be the logo of the new sheriff that we're going to install in that county. We need the uncorruptible sheriff that we're going to be installing in that community next, right? We're going to make sure that they're not going to be bad at it, Craddock. Okay? I'm just saying. We're going to give that one a big one. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself. I'm proud. Look at that. I even pat myself on the arm. Look at that. How often do you actually physically catch somebody doing that? Huh? How often? Okay, let me stop with my conceitedness. Let me get knocked off my pedestal real quick and come back down here to real life. All right, so getting back to this case. Identity. Who would these people be? The reason why I keep going over this stuff with you guys is because if somebody's from this area that happens to stumble across our show, they might say, oh my gosh, this lady lived next to me. Her and her husband and her boyfriend fought all the time. And then one day, the children, she didn't take them to school. I happened to see her walking out. I'm like, hey, how you doing? Like, where's the kids? I haven't seen them around in a while. They're like, oh, they went to their dad's to live. They went to their grandma's house for a visit. And then a few weeks later, they moved out of the neighborhood. And you're just like, didn't think anything of it. But now that we have two young children, potentially 8 and 14, in a shallow grave, maybe you're thinking, whoa, you know what? That was odd. I remember that loud fight they had. And I remember the girls screaming, and I didn't get to see her, but then a few days later, they went and visited with their grandparents. I didn't think nothing of it. A week later, they moved out of the apartment, never saw them again, out of sight, out of mind. Right? Possibly. So that's why we're doing this. We're doing this because we want to try to jog somebody's memory. If somebody's here saying, oh my gosh, 2 girls in Cleveland, and they start typing it in, mainstream media tells you the facts. We kind of try to, trigger the cranium to work. We try to get the wheels, the cogs moving, right, in your brain. And so we start saying things like, maybe something didn't feel off. Maybe it was just different. Maybe there was just something weird going on that day. Maybe something felt unsettling. Something unsettling in the air. The reason why we say that is because people have these things called instincts. Nobody can really explain what instincts truly are. Okay? It's not a chemical produced in your body. It's not an organ in your body. It's a sense. It's almost your 6th sense, so to speak. That's what they call it. This intuition, right? But you'll be somewhere. And just before you open the door, maybe the hair on the back of your neck stands up. And it spooks you. And you say, you know what? I'm not going in here. I'm not doing this thing. I'm not going to this water park today because something just it's not vibing with you. Or on the other sense, where something was really strong inside of you, you didn't know what it was, but you kept going, and then you wish you wouldn't have. That is that instinct. You don't know where, people talk about it. It comes naturally. But you don't know really where it comes from. They'll give you all this stuff, but is that real? So what I'm trying to say is there's something that somebody remembers, that somebody had the back of the hair on their neck stand up, or they remember talking to somebody about something and they knew that they were lying to them. Maybe somebody was asking about a child and they knew that person was lying to them. Why were they lying to you? You don't know. Maybe you blew it off because it was just chit chat, small talk. Maybe you're a nail person, a nail tech. Maybe you have a client that always comes in with her 2 girls. Maybe your client stopped coming in to get her nails done with her 2 daughters, and when you asked her about it, they went to grandma's. They went on vacation. They went to their daddies. Whatever the case may be, they went somewhere, and it sounded like they would be coming back, but you never saw them again. You need to be making telephone calls. If you're from this area, you need to be making telephone calls and saying, you know what? I had a client that had girls. I've never seen them. Maybe 6 months ago, maybe a year ago. We want to jog those memories. If you are out here, that has to be notorious for crime a whole entire life. The east side of Cleveland has always been bad for forever. Well, we had some people from Cleveland, and they said this particular community is not bad. There were some people in here earlier on our first show when we broke the story. And they said that this particular area is fairly low in crime. We saw some of the people. They were elderly people. Their houses looked well maintained. They weren't falling down. I mean, in all fairness, I definitely wouldn't consider this a ghetto by any stretch of the imagination. Their yards are too damn green. Well, they're not probably green now because they're froze over. But some of the photos that we had from 2025 before the snow and the cold, I'm sorry, but that looked like a pretty chill neighborhood. It looked like a very well-kept neighborhood, if nothing more. The houses, like I've seen houses falling apart and being in a rough areas before. We've covered some of those cases, but typically when we see could be foster children, ooh, that would really piss me off, Marissa. Because, you know how I feel about, I love the foster care systems. There are some really good, amazing people in the foster care systems, hands down, just amazing. But there's some terrible people in the foster care system, very violent people. I've heard horrible stories. I've heard, you know what the bad part is I've heard really, really amazing, blessed stories of the foster care system. And I've heard and witnessed the worst. We've covered some pretty rotten cases. Some of them I think we covered one that was out in Arizona or Texas one time where their caseworker was the one, imping them out with a P, their caseworker. That, I can't. I would want to, I don't care if it's a male or female, I would want to injure very badly, because of that. Because a person is already disadvantaged because their family can't get their shit together to take care of them. And then you're forced, because you're underage, you have no choice. You're forced into a system and your caseworker is the one doing this stuff to you. You do not want to ever meet me if that's the kind of stuff you do. I don't know if I could contain myself. I would have self-control, but it'd be hard. It would be very, very, very difficult. I think it would be very difficult for a lot of us to find out that be the case. I'm back. The blue as well. Aw, well, welcome, Amy. We love it. We love it. We love it. Very true. Good thought. Possible foster kid. That would make sense because, look at Orrin and Orson West, which is classic and sincere. Orrin and Orson and I forget. Orrin and Orson West. I know it was an Olsen. It's Orson. It's like R. I remember that. And they call them classic and sincere. And they were fostered kids by the West. And because the West were going to get much more money, they chose to adopt them. And then they no longer had them. And come to find out, they were murdered months apart. So, and then reported disappeared together. I don't know if this will be the case with this one. I know somebody brought it up in the earlier show. Could this be a situation where maybe one of them lost their life earlier and were placed here, and then the other one lost their life and they were placed here? And I reckon that could be a possibility, but I don't think so, because even Orson and Orrin West, I don't believe, were in the same spot unless they were both thrown out in the garbage. And if that was the case, then, you know, the disposal method may have been the same, but the place that they both ended up would have been different. So the point I'm trying to make here with describing other cases that have already gone through the justice system and the parents have gone to jail, there's only one that I recall that two siblings were reported missing at the same time. In this case, we don't even have the children missing. They have not been reported missing. I don't know. I mean, no matter how you look at this is whoever had the primary caregiving of these children. Whoever's children these are, whoever's children. So there is a common parent between both of them. Whatever parent that is, they're going to jail if they're not already deceased. Because we don't know who did this to these kids. Is their mom also gone? And if so, how did an entire family be wiped off the face of the earth and nobody know? That's pretty stinking scary. But we at least know two people were wiped off this earth and almost went unnoticed. Because they're saying these bags have been here for some time. That is the words used by law enforcement. Some time. Some time does not sound recent. And maybe the reason why they are still bodies instead of remains is because it happened right near the time the place started getting cold. Because they had freezing temperatures in Ohio. Many of us have it. We've been complaining about it for weeks, if not months. Last year we were starting to freeze in the northern states. So this could have been from months ago. And they could have just been there. And the reason why we're dealing with body versus remains is because they were preserved by the weather, by the elements, by it being so cold. They didn't break down. They froze in sense. They were basically cubed, ice cubed, like preserved. And you have to think how, like, when these children go to, or any victim, let's just talk about any victim. When the victim goes to the morgue, where are they kept? They're kept in a refrigerated locker. Why? Because it has been proven that refrigeration, a body being cold, breaks down less. We can stop the breakdown process, by freezing the body. We know that. So it needs to be kept at a certain temperature, because my understanding is you can't have it frozen, because when it starts thawing, it will deteriorate 10 times faster. So it's one of these scientific, probably refrigerator times that they have, through study, determine that this is where we need to be kept if we've met our demise. So if that was done in the ground, then you can bet your bottom dollar that there might be some really decent trace and or third-party DNA on them. That's what we want. We want a mom or a stepfather touching them, because if somebody's doing this, the chances of them being a felon are of a higher, greater risk. So if they're a felon, we most likely have their DNA and or fingerprints on file somewhere around this country. So, and my understanding is you don't even have to be convicted of the felony. You only have to be charged for them to get your DNA into the CODIS system. So if our government really wanted to just go around and charge a whole bunch of felonies, they theoretically could, just to get our DNA in the system, which I think is problematic, but that's my understanding of how the system works you don't need to be convicted of the crime for your DNA to be administered or put into the CODIS system. You only need to be charged with the felony for them to have probable cause to take your DNA. Yeah, it's been a bitter winter. You're right, because, I mean, think about it. We've been talking, one of the things that we do on this show, we're covering the Sebastian Rogers case, and then we started, Nancy Guthrie's case got really, really, really big, and then now this case is coming on, and this is who are these young, who are these adolescents? Once we find out who the adolescents are, the parents are going to jail. We already know, we've already seen this case before. It's just different names in a different location, like I said. There's going to be several things that we're going to find out about this case because we've been doing this a long time. The bottom line is that we're going to learn, which is going to make us very angry. We're going to learn that these children most likely had the Department of Children and Family Services already involved in their childhood before they ever went missing. Now, we're going to find that the Department of Children and Family Services and whatever school that they're entered in dropped the ball. So all of this, the mechanisms that we have in place to prevent these things failed, as they always do. Why? I can't tell you, because it seems like the same failure over and 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 over. Like we can, like I said, this is it. I sound so cavalier about this case because it's a dime a dozen. It makes you sick. This is the one that has interesting factors, but trust me, this case is a case that we commonly cover on this channel. Now, the disposal methods are different, but it's still usually a parent that harms a child. Statistically, folks, I need to bring back statistics to you. One thing that we've learned over the course of doing this, all of us, if you've been with me for a significant amount of time, we study statistics. And statistics tell us that when a child loses their life, it is usually a parent, co-parent, or caregiver. The majority of the time, a very high majority of the time. And then if you incorporate like ailments, like mental illness of that child or disabilities of that child, then those factors increase. That means it's more likely that their parent, guardian, or caregiver injured them. So we don't know who these children are, so we don't know what at elevated risk they would be. But just based on the fact that we have 2 juveniles that are obviously in a shallow grave and no missing person child, you bet your butt the parent is involved. The parent is involved, hands down. So if you know anything, please come forward. They are siblings. Let me just do another cursory review. I'm just going to be coming through lives with whatever we can that are updated, new information. But I'm confident that that is all that we have that we have right now. Cleveland says 2 young girls found in suitcases. Let's see, black female juveniles. Suitcase. DNA links the 2 girls, which we kind of felt that was going to be the case this morning. I think that's it. So that's all we have, folks. We now officially, on the record, the 2 girls that were found are officially related. If you're just coming in, they are half siblings. And that means they were siblings. I don't, half siblings is their biology, but they were sisters. They didn't know each other as half siblings. They only knew each other as, this is my sister. So we have 2 sisters here. Some people brought up, could this be a foster care? I mean, yeah, it could be. And we'll be looking at those aspects. But again, I really do... I do feel that these kids weren't in a foster care. I believe that we're going to find out these siblings were probably not taken away from the home that they should have been taken away from a long time ago. But I guess only time will tell. It really is one or the other. So, I guess when that information does come out, we'll know. But it looks like they're making headway. We now know that these siblings are, for people out there, maybe somebody... Maybe somebody like a grandparent or an aunt is looking for their nieces and are very concerned. We have 2 black juveniles that were found in suitcases. And they're between 8 and 14. If this sounds like a family member that you haven't seen in a really long time, please reach out to the law enforcement out here. This is Charlotte County. This is I can't even Cuyahoga County. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'm not saying that correctly. I'm almost confident I'm not saying that correctly. But this appears to be in the Cleveland, Ohio area. So if you're in the area or on the outskirts of that area, if you're missing nieces, cousins, grandchildren, and your daughter or your son is not speaking to you, and you are very concerned for the well-being of these children, these might be your grandchildren, your niece, or your cousins. Please, guys, call in. They need to find out who these girls are. We need to get them justice. They said there was no visible signs with what they could see with what's going on with these kids. They were in suitcases. They could not do anything with them until they get them back. I mean, they're going to want to unearth them, but they're not going to open that up or do their investigation right there at the road. That would be foolish. They could lose trace. They could lose a lot of stuff. So they're going to want to take those suitcases and get those suitcases wrapped up and secured, and keep all of that contaminant, all of that trace as much into those bags and around those bags as possible. And they're going to want to get that the heck out of Dodge and get it back to a lab. The more that they keep fumbling with it, the more trace is falling off of it. So they're going to want to get, how old were they? They said between 8 and 13. They changed that. I thought it was something else, but 8 and 13 and 11 and 14, or 10 and 14, something, 8 and 13 and 10 and 14. So one appears to be a few years younger than the older one. But they don't really have any more. They haven't identified with specificity what we are looking at as far as actual age of these children. We only had an approximate age, and I'm pretty sure they can define that. Cuyahoga. Okay. Cuyahoga. Okay, thank you. Cuyahoga. So this looks like Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner. Thank you so much. So here are the ages right here. 8 to 13 and 10 to 14. Thank you. It starts confusing people when they start giving those ranges. I know why, but you know what? Somebody right now is crapping in their britches. Okay? Somebody knows that this is going on, that did this. So they found them. They found their victims. So now, if you're in this Cleveland area and you see somebody acting suspicious, started yesterday and working through today, somebody's not wanting to come to work, somebody acting awfully nervous when they saw this news come across the screen, guys, we need to pay attention. If you are in the Cleveland area or surrounding areas, we need you to pay attention, because you might have information you don't even know you have. You might have information that might help this case and help blow this case out of the water. Okay? Here's what you need to do. If somebody is acting strange, obviously these are black females. Okay? Now, they didn't say mixed. Would they be able to? I don't know. I really don't. They said black juveniles. So that removes the brown and white population. These are black juveniles. So that's the demographic of these victims. So we're looking most likely for black parents that are acting strange. A mom, a boyfriend, a stepdad, a father. We're looking for them. Was anybody in the last 24 hours acting strange? Hey, the Coop, it's nice to see you. I hope you're doing well. These girls were missing from Chai last Christmas Eve 2025. Amia Clark, 17, 5 feet 5 inches, 130 pounds, brown eyes, and Anea Clark. To me, they're describing that's a good thought. Thank you. But for me, they're describing younger kids, not somebody that would be 17. I know the 13-year-old might fit, but not the 17-year-old. Not at 5 feet 5 inches. Because I'm 5 feet 2, and I don't think that they would mistaken me for a 14-year-old girl. So I don't know. Good thinking. This is what we need right here. What Baby Love is doing, that's what we need our audience doing. Start looking around in your local missing. Why don't we do this? Maybe we have an action item. Let's do an action item. Certainly, we have 50 people in here from all 50 states, right? If not, I know we've got, we even got somebody that's from Hawaii in here, JH. JH comes here. So even if JH isn't here right now, JH will probably watch this later. JH, aloha, by the way. Maybe check even Hawaii. If we can check Hawaii, and if we can find somebody in Alaska, and we have somebody in each state, if everybody just took some time to go through your active missing children cases in your state, we're looking for 2 female juveniles, black female juveniles that are missing together. I've been Googling kids in the Midwest. Perfect. Thank you. I have to wait until later. That's fine. That's fine. Whenever you guys can. You don't have to do it right now. I know some of you guys are probably listening to me on your little iPods at work, right? Don't want the boss knowing that you have a true crime addiction. I get it. I get it. But when you get home, this case is I'm telling you, this case is already starting to bother me. I'm angry about this case. Okay. I get angry when I hear of kids winding up like this, because we as a community and as a nation, we try to make sure that we have these checks and balances in place so no child falls through the crack. And you can understand how angry it is coming here daily and seeing how many of our children fall through the crack. It's too many. It's too many. But when we have them fall through the crack and they literally stay in the crack, nobody even knows they're gone, I get irate about that. Like, how the hell does that happen with all of our technology? I just want if somebody could just explain it to me. That's what I get so frustrated about. I'm angry about this topic. I'm very much angry about this topic. These children shouldn't be where they are. And what is so much more problematic is what I keep beating a dead horse over. And it's like, we're going to find out the Department of Children and Family Services were already involved in this case. That's like just adding insult to injury. And we're always sidelined, helpless on the sidelines, watching these things happen, knowing that we could do so much better, and nobody in our government even giving a shit to try. Nobody. They're worried about the blessed farmland. They're worried about China. And I get it. China's an adversary. China can take America out. But so we're so focused on China, we can't save our kids? We can't walk and chew bubble gum in the greatest nation on this planet? That's what gets me. That's what angers me. Our children are our future, and we're screwing up our future and our civilization. And that's the bottom line. And there's just no need for this. There are hundreds of missing kids in Ohio. We've got to find the kids. We've got to find the kids. If the kids want to be out there on the street because they hate their mommy and daddy, or they have abusive homes, I'm not going to sit here and force feed foster care down a child that knows how to take care of themselves or have been out on the street for a year, okay? I'd prefer giving them some resources and getting them off the street. If they want to live alone, by God, give them an apartment. If they've already been taking care of themselves all this time, what difference does it make? Let them thrive. Give them a chance to thrive, but don't throw them in a crazy home. you know, unless they have some substance abuse problems, which living out on the streets, it has a tendency to creep up on young children. It's just easier to stay awake. It's easier to watch your stuff, and it's easier for you not to become a victim out on the streets. So I understand why substance abuse does happen, and those things need to be addressed as well. But there's got to be a better way here. You know, there's just got to be a better way. But you know what? No matter what we do, like, for example, if we were to say, okay, let's say that if we get a report and we deem that there might be a possibility of abuse, we take those children out of the house and we put them in foster care, right? And you have to go and prove that you need to bring them back. How often do you think that they would pull those kids out of the better homes and leave the kids in the worse homes there? They don't want to deal with it. It just seems like they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with it. I don't know how the Department of Children and Family Services can consistently make the same mistake over and over again across this country. Like, it's the same mistakes over and over again across this country. That's the part I don't understand. Guys, you guys remember, you guys can go to the little circles next to the trolls' names and block them personally so you never have to see them. And actually, I think it's recommended that you do that, because then you don't have to worry about seeing them on any other channel you go to either. I'm just saying. So if you don't know how to do that, just go to the little circle next to their name and you can click on it, and it gives you an option to go to their profile or block them. Block them. It's a serial killer here as well. Haven't been caught, I feel. I believe there's probably a serial killer in Cleveland. I wouldn't put that past. I think the population is large enough that it could have an appetite for a serial. I wouldn't put it past it. And you guys got a lot of, big arteries going into Cleveland as well, because Cleveland's a hub. So, yeah, because I truly believe we have several big rig truck driver murderers on our roads, like serial killers. I don't think there's just one. I think there's multiple. I think we have. I think that's why it's been so confusing with certain bodies around this country. They don't know why they're happening and why they're. But you'll find that there's like a major interstate next to them or where their body was found, and you see this pattern in certain cases throughout the United States. And you got to remember, serial killers don't hunt, every single month. They don't start doing that until they're spiraling out of control. And some of them are very measured and don't spiral out of control. So they typically, feed their hunger and then keep that in for a while. If you notice, maybe somebody may not strike, but maybe once every year, once every 2 years. Some might even be 6 months. I don't know what Rex Heuermann's schedule was. Hopefully we get a breakdown of his schedule, because he's got a serial killer mind. I've got to think that their serial killer minds are fairly similar. I just... 3 young girls kidnapped. Where was that, CR? I'd like to hear about that. If you guys have any stories to send me that might be related or help clarify this case for me, you can send that to bullhornbetty@gmail.com. Oh, God, I hate the thought of I know. I hear ya. I don't like serial killers either, but we have them. We have more psychopaths than I didn't realize how common psychopaths were. Psychopaths are more common than you think, but believe it or not all psychopaths are violent. There's only a small number of violent psychopaths. Didn't you know that? I didn't know that until I started researching psychopaths. We've got a lot of psychopaths that roam freely in our country. I'm kind of shocked to hear that. But psychopath? That's actually a more common diagnosis than you might think. If you don't believe me, fact check. If you dare. If you dare. I don't know if I dare to fact check some of these things anymore, because every time I fact check something, I'm disgusted. I won't lie to you. I'm freaking disgusted. I'm disgusted. So a few things that we learned about this case that really just doesn't make sense to us is the fact that in this particular matter with the 2 suitcases, they were buried in basically an open field. Buried in an open field, like near a fence line. But here's the kicker. Here's the big kicker. There are houses, like what you see over here. These are on one side of the street, and they're like in a, like a row, right in front of that school and that empty field. So my question is how in the world can somebody feel comfortable enough to go up to the fence line in an open field where the houses across the street can see what you're doing and dig a hole and put suitcases in it without anybody even knowing? Ariel, oh, golly, yeah, you're right. I remember that. I didn't know you were talking about the Cleveland girls. I did not know. That's right, CR. That's right. That was a crazy case. They knocked that house down. That was truly a house of horrors. And you know what? I think that opened our minds because, a lot of us, like when I came here on YouTube, and we did advocacy stuff. Like we raised money to buy stuff for Christmas stuff. I've never been in this theft thing, right? I never knew that people would deceive people online. We were always taught, you say you're going to do something, you do it. I never had those problems. I never had sticky fingers. I've never done anything. I mean, shoot, my problem was partying too much, right? Before I got myself set up, got myself right. Never stealing. I worked for lawyers. I worked for insurance companies. I worked with a lot of cash and a lot of money, like the majority of my life, right? But these people are like, oh, she's going to steal this, and oh, she's going to steal that. So you sit there and you think about these things. Now you got to apply that same mythology, that same mind thought of how sick it has to be for somebody to not only think about this, but to do it, because normal people don't think that way. Who in the hell would think about burying suitcases, which I would have to think if you see a suitcase rolling, right? Rolling over with somebody with a shovel in their hand, you would be saying, okay, this gives me the Jeepers Creepers vibes, right? Like, I'm sorry, if I saw somebody with a shovel over their shoulder dragging a suitcase out to the woods, I'd probably call 911. I don't know about you, but I'm calling 911. So who would think about burying suitcases in an open field near a tree line where people could walk out of their house and see some type of unsavory activity going on? To me, it would be somebody that was comfortable there. Somebody that either lived there or went to that school. Who would have known that that would have been a safe place and they would have been secure enough to dig? We're not talking about driving up and dumping it out. Like that was Stefan Stearns. Remember when he dumped Maddie Soto? He dumped her on the side of the road behind some shrubberies, behind the trees, right? This is a person that was able to dig a hole. That's the problem I'm having with this case. In an open field with houses in front of that open field that could have seen him. Somebody could have just walked out or heard something or saw a light and came out and, what the hell's going on over there? Type of thing. Did the neighbors remember any type of commotion going on in that area in the last 3 years, 2 years, year, in the last 6 months? Before Christmas break, maybe before Thanksgiving? We don't know what we're looking at here. We don't even know what the temperature was here. But at the end of the day, I just don't see somebody rolling up to a fence line in an open field with a suitcase and a shovel. That is somebody that surely knew that nobody would see them. Because you look around there, I'm telling you, that's not a place I would drop a body. That's not a place I'd drop, not that I drop a body. But I'm just saying, at this point with our search and efforts that we've put out, we as crazy as it sounds, we look for places to drop bodies. We look for places. It sounds satire. I'm not trying to laugh, but we're in true crime, and we actually physically go out and search for missing people. So we're constantly being vigilant on places that people may dump bodies. And this would never be a place that I would say, this looks like a great place to dump a body. Actually, if I would have looked at this, I would have said there was no way that the kids would be here. That would be, if I would have walked by there and looked at that and how open it is and all these houses across the street from it, I would absolutely say that there is no possibility at all. No possibility that somebody would do that right there. I would never. But you know what? Now we have the experience of it. So the next time we see something like this, we're going to be looking at that fence line. Even though we know that there's no way anybody would be so stupid to do that. Well, look at this. The smartest thing. Hidden in plain sight. Hidden in plain sight. I wonder if they can look at the satellite maps and find out when that ground first became disturbed. That might help. That might help, because I have to think that it was pristine one minute and looked disturbed the next. I have to think the satellites might have picked that up. So hopefully, I think the satellites, now that we have so many satellites orbiting orbiting the world, I think we're in a great position where our orbits and our world on all sides, it's round. On the radius, on the surface of our I believe that we have enough to capture all these satellite images. And I hope that they are doing that. And they need to start reducing the price of those satellite images, because those things are getting expensive. But I truly believe that they've got something. This will be interesting. If anybody's got access to satellites, this would be a great project to ask for approval to use those satellites on, to find out if we can ascertain when the suitcases got into the ground. Right? I've got to be careful, because we know these are adolescents, so we're just going to be talking about the suitcases instead of what's inside the suitcases. I think that's the best way we can keep this, a G-rated conversation without any too harsh description. I'm just, these poor kids had so much dignity taken from them, and the fact that they were basically thrown away like trash. I just want them to be able to maintain as much dignity as possible as we discuss their case. Because, again, this is a very problematic case for me in so many ways. I'm just angry with this case. I'm angry with this case that we have 2 juveniles that deserve to be here and that deserve to thrive. And we know their family, the people that were supposed to protect them and keep them safe, are the ones that did this. We know that. We don't need a law enforcement officer telling us. We don't need, media or sheriffs or chiefs of police schooling us or telling us about ourselves. We have brains on our head, in our head. And we can think for ourselves. And there is no possibility in my mind other than the person that was supposed to be providing for these kids right here did this to them. There is no excuse for this. We have 2 children missing for God knows how long. And we have no reports from a school or missing person reports. I am sickened to my stomach over this case. You know that this enrages me more than anything else, is how in the hell we got here. I'm not, and again, I don't know if you were here at the beginning of this, but it's not that I'm enraged with the fact that animals will be animals. We know animals will be animals. That's why we try to lock these animals up as quickly as possible. We know animals will be animals. That's why we spend so much of our taxpayer money protecting people from animals, including children from their own parents. Yet time and time again, we come here day after day, day after day, and these blessed kids are failed. They're failed. They're failed over and over again. They're failed. And I'm tired of paying for the failure. I'm tired of covering the failure. Something has got to give here. We need our federal government to step up to the plate because the Department of Children and Family Services is not working in this country. I don't know who thinks this is working. This is not working. It's just not. It's not working. These were babies, damn it. So anyways, we found out, if you're coming in for the first time, breaking news, at least major update. They are siblings. We have to say they were siblings. They're gone. These babies are gone. Now it's time for us to find out who these angels are and put the bastards in jail where they belong. Somebody knows who this is. And I can tell you, the law enforcement better get them behind bars before the coffee club finds out who they are. I'm just saying, because we've got a lot of pitchforks and matches. I'm just saying. Am I gonna get in trouble for that? I don't give a patootie. I don't give a. They tell me I have to use that every now and again, because they never work. I know. I'm so sick of it. We just did, guys. I don't know if you guys were here. We just read a report. And I don't know what makes me angrier. We read a report the other day here for Tennessee, the Department of Children and Family Services, and how horrible they are in the state of Tennessee, which is one of the states that we've been in for 5 years, screaming from the rooftops about the child problems in their state, about how they have the Department of Children and Family Services is a mess. They're shipping kids off. They have no beds. There's being SA. There's trafficking. There's drugs. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on with the Department of Children and Family Services. Well, in Tennessee, they decided to create a commission, right, that costs more taxpayer money than before. And this commission is supposed to be the overseers of the overseers of the overseers. You know, that whole, word salad. Let's take more of your money so you guys can at least trust the process, right? Well, that process kind of sucks too, because what did we find out? We found out that this entity that's supposed to be helping guide the Department of Children and Family Services for the last 16 years, by the way, is worse now, 16 years later, than it was before that commission was ever even installed in the state of Tennessee. What does that tell you? It tells you nothing's working. It tells you that we're throwing money at these advocacy groups, and we're throwing money at these overseers and these committees to oversee and make sure that and they keep giving reports. Nobody's following the reports. Nobody's doing any damn thing about it. And guess what? Every year it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And here we are, and we're all the way in Ohio. Do you think it's any different in Ohio than it is in Tennessee? I bet you it's probably not much different. What do you guys bet? I bet you it's probably not much different. Every time we turn around, the Department of Children and Family Services were inside these homes before they went missing. I am so sick of the Department of Children and Family Services. It's time to fire them. They're not doing their job, and our children are dying. That is a fact. That is a fact. Our children are in peril, because the people that are supposed to be in charge of protecting them are failing at their job. They're failing. So what the hell do we do? The only thing I can think to do is scrap the system. The system isn't working. We haven't made interstate changes since 1969. Our government doesn't give a shit. Are you guys getting it? Interstate policy hasn't changed since. I want you guys to sit here and just ponder how many changes this country has gone through since 1969. And to think that we haven't changed our interstate policy for our Department of Children and Family Services since 1969. Do you think our government really gives a shit about our kids? I mean, I'm asking. If this is making you angry, folks, you guys got to get involved if you can. That means you guys got to start at your county level. I know TJ, she reached out to me. I've got to get her some information. As a matter of fact, let me make a note right there because I was meaning to check that out today and I didn't. But she reached out to me, and if you guys reach out to me to your county, I will tell you how to get started. I'll tell you where your meetings are. I have to look it up. That's what takes a little time to get back. But as long as we're planning on getting people out and into those meetings, that's where it begins. And how do you get involved? If your passion is the children, well, they have child advocacy stuff. Start learning who your politicians are. Start finding your local politicians. That's your county commissioners, your city hall people, your sheriff, your U.S. your Florida representatives, your Florida Senate, and then your U.S. representatives and your U.S. Senate. But I would start very, very local and just start talking to them. When they start learning who you are and you start showing up, they start realizing you're there. And as time goes on, you're going to butt heads with your politicians, but always make sure that they're on the same side as you. You're never going to agree 100% with anybody. Okay, that's just a fact. So if you're looking for somebody that agrees with you 100%, you're going to be sorely disappointed. So you just got to make sure that you guys have enough agreeing. You know, your mindsets are enough in line that those little nuances aren't big deals, right? If you and that politician, any politician you're voting for, has core integrity, compatibility, and moral compatibility, then you guys, there may be some policies that the person might think is a better policy, even though you disagree. It's not something that you should stop working with them because you had one single policy disagreement. That's not how that works. You're never going to be spot on 100%. I can tell you that. I don't look for 100% in my politicians. I look for enough, right? Are we enough alike that we can do good? And the answer is, in many cases, yes, until our employees get a hold of them and then they go to shit. So anyways, that's just, I'm starting to roll out of way, and so let's just correct this ship real quick and just get back to it. We found out these girls are half siblings. We knew that. We're looking for a mom, a dad, or a step parent or a foster parent that did something to these children. You're looking at a family that had 2 kids and didn't have kids and have never had those kids back again, that you don't even know what happened to them. But every time you talk to them, the story has changed. If you have that type of details in your missing family's case or missing friend's case, oh, let's not forget the friends. The friends are going to be the best source of information. If you're out there and you have kids, listen, if you're in this area and you've got children, ask your kids. These are grade school kids. Do you remember any girls, any of your classmates that were there 1 minute and never came back? We might find something. It might not be the adults that help out in this. It actually might be the kids. Because there might have been a heartbroken kid that wanted to see her best friend and never got to see her again. And she went home crying because so-and-so never came back to school again. Do we have any stories like that? Do we have any stories like that? I'm raising my sibling's kid and my nephew. Aw, my mom is gone. Big hugs and kisses. Big hugs and kisses. Kids' friends? Yes, absolutely. These were young kids. They don't deal with loss very good. They don't deal with, somebody went over there to play with these kids and they were told they went to live with their father or went to live somewhere out of town and never came back. We're looking for those types of stories. Those are going to be the types of stories that break this case wide open, in my opinion. They really are. Anyways, guys, that's the end of this show. I just wanted to give you this major update. The children are related. They're half siblings. In my book, they were sisters, okay? I don't like saying half siblings. I know technically that's what they were, but when we refer to this case moving forward, we're going to refer to them as being sisters, okay? I'm sorry, it to me feels like the right thing to do. I hope you guys agree with that, but if you don't, at the end of the day, it's still my show. I make the rules, so. Tough titty, said the kitty, but the milk's still good. Just saying, not playing. Please pray for these babies. And at the end of the day, the silver lining is these were found. These kids were found, okay? These kids were found. That's what we can be blessed for. So many kids aren't found. We're dealing with so many broken hearts, broken families, no children, no answers, just unknown. Parents can't move on. Parents can't get closure. You know, and these are for the parents that love their kids. Obviously, these two children were expendable because we have no mommy screaming out, "Where are my babies?" If you're the mommy that didn't scream out for these two babies, my name's Bullhorn Betty, and our code word here is uncle, because when I find you, I'm going to make you climb walls. Just to let you know. I'm going to make you climb walls until the sheriffs come to lock your ass up. All right, guys, rock it out with your coffee beans out. Do not forget to be fearless. If you see something, say something. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And until next time, please be safe, but more importantly, kind to one another. God bless, and we will see you later this evening.